Hi guys, Samantha here from Doing the Best I Can, and I'm coming to you today to do a tutorial and demonstration on paced feeding. But before I get into the feeding, I'd like to talk a little bit about it. There have been a lot of parents on my support groups and forums, and even my lactation consultant, my IBCLC, has recommended, since I'm trying to breastfeed, that I use paced feeding whenever I offer the bottle. Now, they've all offered this advice, but not a single person has told me what paced feeding is or offered to instruct me or show me. So I had to do all the research on my own and figure out what it is. And it's actually a really neat way and helpful way to feed your baby, whether you're breastfeeding or not. I feel like this is how all moms should be using the bottle when they are offering the bottle to their child. First, let's talk a little bit about the science behind drinking from a bottle. The traditional way that we feed a baby from a bottle is, cradle hold, maybe a little bit more up like this, and we take the bottle and we put it in their mouth and we tilt it up. I'm going to block this so it doesn't, and we just let gravity and suction do its work so that the baby drinks the bottle. Maybe we burp halfway through, maybe we burp after every ounce, and then we burp at the end. And that is how mothers have been using bottles for decades. And this is such a better way and more efficient way to use the bottle. Now, think about it this way. How does a breast work? Well, I use a super slow flow nipple, and you saw I had to put my finger over it because even with the slow flow, oh, this one needs to be replaced. Okay, but even with the slow flow, milk is going to come out. Now, typically that should have come out in little drops. This nipple is apparently worn out and needs to be replaced, which I will do, but it's actually not a big deal because of the way I'm feeding. So we put the bottle in their mouths, we let gravity and their suction do the work, and it's so easy. And this is the number one reason that babies get nipple confusion. It doesn't matter if you've spent thousands of dollars on nipples. I did not spend thousands of dollars on nipples. It doesn't matter if it looks exactly like a nipple. It doesn't matter if it's the cheapest thing you got at the store. Essentially, this is not working like a human breast nipple would work. Yes, it feels more like a nipple. Maybe it sits in their mouth more like a nipple, but that is not how a boob works. We do not just put their mouth on and liquid start pouring into it. They have to suction, they have to work, and it doesn't come in a steady flow. It comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes, and that's letdowns. And so it's really easy to see why a baby that is both breastfed and bottle fed can get nipple confusion, and this will completely well, I don't want to say eliminate, but this will reduce the risk for nipple confusion. And that's a really good thing for breastfeeding moms who are also having to supplement with formula or breast milk or donor milk. But beyond that, this is really good for formula-fed babies. Formula-fed babies have a higher risk of obesity, and it is not because of nutrition, and it is not because of calories. Essentially, this is the same. And don't go filling up my comments. This is the same as breast milk as far as basic nutrition and calories. That is not the reason for the obesity epidemic that comes from or is higher found in formula-fed babies. The main culprit in that is overfeeding. Now, if you have the bottle in the baby's mouth and it's just pumping in and pumping in, a baby's hungry. Especially a new baby. A baby doesn't know the difference between stomach pains, I'm hungry, stomach pains, I have to go to the bathroom, stomach pains, I'm too full, stomach pains, I need to burp. In their mind, stomach pains, I'm hungry. So they are going to be gulping and gulping and gulping and gulping and getting that food into them, and next thing you know, they're done with the bottle and their stomach is expanded and they have drank too much. And they don't have to drink that much. They did, and this is what leads to, projectile vomiting and a lot of spit up. My son has a little spit up occasionally, but he's maybe only had 3 or 4 big spit ups since he was born 8 weeks ago. 2 months ago, a full 2 months, not just 8 weeks. So this was really helpful, even for formula-fed babies, to prevent overeating, which can lead to obesity in children, as well as this will prevent or can help alleviate symptoms of reflux and GERD. They say, you know, prop the baby up, don't lay him flat. Well, your baby's not going to be laying flat, and you're going to have them in a more upright position through the whole feeding, which will prevent that, you know, backflow problem that happens with GERD and reflux in sick babies. So that's a benefit, as well as in this method, you are going to be paying more attention to your baby's cues. You're going to see when they are getting full. You're going to give them an opportunity to tell you when they are getting full. They are going to be taking their time and only, hopefully, if it's, you know, effective, only drinking what they really need. So I do a lot smaller bottles now that I've started paced feeding. But let's go back to that. So my lactation consultant and my breastfeeding friends and people on forums, oh, make sure you're doing paced feeding. Make sure your significant other, which I don't have one, but make sure your significant other is doing paced feeding. Make sure grandma, grandpa, babysitter, they're all doing paced feeding. But they didn't tell me what paced feeding was. What is paced feeding? What do I do? Okay, if it's so important, why are you just telling me what it is and not showing me how to do it? So after research and figuring out the best way to do it, I feel like I can show you. That way you don't have the same questions I have. Some things that I would like to note about paced feeding are, this is completely different than we've been feeding babies forever as far as bottles are concerned. And you're going to be met with, I don't want to say backlash, but confrontation or aversion, especially from your parents, grandparents, older generations. They're like, well, we fed you this way, so what's the problem? Well, when you know better, you do better. Just because it was done one way doesn't mean it's the best way. And that's the great thing about science, is we move forward and we learn new things. And when you know better, you do better. Same thing with car seats. Nobody's going to argue we don't even need car seats anymore. You know better, you do better. So this is where something I talked about in my first video will come into play. Advocacy. You have got to be an advocate for yourself and for your baby. You're going to hear caregivers, maybe not as much because you're paying them, significant others, parents and grandparents that don't want to do this type of feeding because it is a lot more work and it does take longer, and that's the point. The baby needs to work. The baby needs to have a longer feed so that the baby can recognize their own hunger cues, and also, if you're breastfeeding, to prevent nipple confusion or eliminate some of the risk of nipple confusion. Because nipple confusion is really not, it's a misnomer. It's really nipple preference. Whereas, okay, I want a cheeseburger, so I could sit here and eat this cheeseburger real quick, or I have to, it's like fast food. I can go to this, get a burger from McDonald's and it's ready. And I'm going to probably do that if I'm really hungry. Or I can go to the store and buy meat and make it into a patty and fry it up and put it on a bun and add this toppings. So what are you going to do if you're really hungry? You're going to take the easy way out. You're going to take the fast food. And even when you're being offered wonderful, nutritious breast milk that tastes delicious compared to formula, or even, warmed up frozen milk or milk that's been in the fridge, it's not bad. It's great for your baby. Give it to your baby. But if you had the option of a McDonald's burger or a really delicious homemade burger, you'd still probably go with the McDonald's burger if you're starving. And babies think they're starving. If they are a little hungry, they are starving. As far as their little brains are concerned, hunger cues, I'm starving, they're never gonna feed me, where's that lady that feeds me, I'm gonna die. That is why they wail the way they do. They are starving in their brains, not really. So they want the fast way. So this is a slow way. This means no matter if they are on the breast or they are on the bottle, They are being frustrated, which I've said before, complacency is not how we learn through frustration. So they are being frustrated, they are having to work, they are not getting over full. So this is a helpful technique whether you are breastfeeding and bottle feeding, combi feeding as it's called, whether you are leaving the child at home. Maybe you're exclusively breastfed, and that's great, but how awesome would it be to every now and then be able to just go out and know that your baby's going to eat, not limit your time out to 2 hours or 4 hours or however often your baby's feeding, to be able for the dad to feed baby, to get that bonding experience from, you know, they want to feed the baby too. And if the only way a baby can take nutrients is from your breast, which if that's what you choose and you have the time and you have the commitment, go for it. A lot of moms are working moms and they have to pump for daycare, or, you know, you want to be able to cook dinner without feeding the baby or something. So this is a really great way to lower the chances of nipple confusion. And this is also great for formula fed only babies to reduce the signs and symptoms of GERD, reflux, and to prevent overfeeding, which leads to obesity. So normally I would never wake a sleeping baby to feed them. I would just pump instead until they woke up, especially because his weight is fine. But we have a doctor's appointment coming up, and if I don't feed him now, he will be hungry then. And I really don't want to have a screaming baby while getting immunizations. It's his 2-month checkup. And so he's napping behind me. I'm going to go get baby Garrett, and we are going to do a demonstration on how to use paced feeding. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, let's get this little snuggle bug awake. Hi, baby. Hi. Was your nap good? I'm sorry. I know. Hi, let's wake up. Hi, baby. Hi. Oh, look, you've got nap hair. Look at your nap hair. Hi. Oh, don't pull my hair. Don't pull my hair. Okay. All right. Hey, wake up, Giver. Wake up, baby. Hey. Hey. Now, normally you would wait for your baby to show you signs of hunger before you start this. If he even just takes a few ounces, I know we'll be able to get through the appointment and be fine. So, hi, good morning, sweetie. Good morning, sweetie. He's got lines on his face from sleeping. Oh, you must have rolled to your side for a little while. He is starting to attempt to try to roll, which makes me nervous, but he'll be fine. Hi, are you awake? Hi, there's my baby. Oh, big eyes. Hi, are you hungry? Oh, sleepy day. Sleepy day. Okay. So we will, hopefully he's awake enough to start this. Okay, let's talk about typical feeding. We'll do just a tiny bit of that. It won't affect him that bad. There's that reflex. Bring that in. You're not startled. It's okay. Okay. So this is a typical feed. You've got your baby in cradle, or mostly cradled. If they're reflex, you're probably feeding them more like this. Never flat, but sometimes, you know, you might be. You take the bottle and you just put it in. And he might not take it. Oh, come on. And there. Look, gravity's pushing that down his gullet. And he's not having to do hardly any work, especially because this nipple is apparently shot. And he loves that. He loves having food shoved down his gullet. And he loves having a quick access to this yummy food for him. But this is a paced feeding. So you're going to sit baby in your lap. And you're going to hold him up straight. Completely straight or mostly straight. If they can't hold their own head up yet, you can do a slight recline in the crook of your arm. But we're going to hold him mostly straight. Make sure you've got a good hold on him. And anytime you offer a baby a nipple, especially if you're breastfeeding, you still want to make sure they get a good latch. So we're going to bring it to his nose. I may have to put it in his mouth without a good latch because he may not be hungry. But I just want to get a little bit in him before this doctor's appointment, which I know seems completely opposite of what I'm telling you not to do, which is overfeed your baby and listen to its cues. But it's kind of important right now for us to do this. So I figured I'd take the time to make the video. All right. So he didn't make a great latch, but so what we're going to do, he's almost completely set up. And And we're not lifting the bottle. We're not filling the nipple with milk. We are letting him pull the milk into his mouth. And, you know, this is going to freak a lot of people out. He's getting air. He's getting air. He's okay. I promise he's okay. He's not getting so much air that he's going to explode. So he's filling the bottle. You count to 30 in your head normally. He's probably already had it in there for about 30. So I'm going to lean him slightly forward. So he's not getting anything right now. You wait. He started sucking again, so I'm going to put it back in there. If he wasn't still hungry, he probably won't still suck. That's why it's important to lean him and the bottle forward, as opposed to, let's get him started, as opposed to just leaning the bottle. So if you just lean the bottle, you're pushing that nipple up into his soft palate, and you're going to trigger the sucking reflex whether he's hungry or not. So we are trying to find out when he's hungry, when he wants to eat, and when he's full. So he's doing the work, he's pulling in. I do need to tilt it just a tiny bit. They recommend you use a smaller bottle. You want something that's really easy to hold. Let's see if I have something I can show you. This isn't, you know, you want to be able to hold it like a pencil so that you have the flexibility. But I like these bottles, and I don't plan, and plus I have a bunch of them. I don't plan on changing it. I'll just have to deal with hand cramps. Ooh, sorry, buddy. Here, let's sit you up a little more. Here. Slightly put my hands under. I'm not squeezing him, just guiding his little head. I do have a good grip on his shoulders. I don't want him to fall. So we're feeling just the tip of the nipple. He's pulling the milk in. These bottles really aren't good for this technique because of just the way they're shaped, but we do fine with them. So if this is what you have, use it. The ones that work really good are the ones they give you like in the hospital with pre-mixed formula in them. Those work, the size like that works really well. Sometimes your pump kits come with those, then, you know, you just need to make sure you have the nipple. So he's been sucking, and we tilt him forward and remove the milk from the nipple, and he stops. Wait for him to start back up. There he goes. So he's still hungry. And we tilt it back just a tiny bit. So we've got this flow going. And, yeah. So he's stopped on his own, but all right, he started back up. So we don't want to offer all of it at once. This is how your breast is working. He doesn't get all of his feed at once on the breast. He gets a little bit, and then it dies off, and then a little bit more, and then it dies off, and then a little bit more. So we want to mimic more naturally the amount of letdown, and encourage him to take breaks. So this is paced feeding. It's a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be, especially because of the fact that you're not, you know, giving him all the formula at once. This is where a lot of the older generation, oh, he's sucking air, he's putting air in his gut, he's sucking air, he's going to choke, he's going to puke. This actually is less likely to cause reflux, even in non-reflux or non-GERD babies. He's doing all the work and pulling the milk in right now. Tilt him forward. He stops and he thinks about it. Is he still hungry? Yeah, he's still hungry, so we're going to offer it back to him. Such a good baby. Yeah, such a good baby. Now, I'm not actually using this technique anymore because I am doing the video, or the technique I showed in the video yesterday, which is kind of a combination breastfeeding and bottle feeding at the same time. I am going to have to pump you now because of this feeding, which is okay. I'm probably not going to get anything, but I'm still going to pump and make sure I have that suction. So this is paced feeding. That's all there is to it. It's so simple, and it would have taken somebody, especially my lactation consultant, which I love her, but it would have taken her 5 minutes to explain. Less than 5 minutes. So forward. Forward, thinking about it, still hungry, put it back. So see, he's upright. So that reflux, that GERD, it's not really an issue right now. And that's the thing, you want your bottle feeds to take between 10 and 15 minutes. This one probably won't take quite that long because it's not very many ounces. So that's it. I'm just going to finish feeding him. I'll speed through the rest of the feed, and I may do a wrap up at the end, or I may just end the video. Either way, if I do end the video, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining me on Doing the Best I Can. And if you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, follow me on Instagram or Facebook under the same name, Doing the Best I Can. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time. Tried to go, but I had a good enough grip on his shoulders that he did not go anywhere. We're going to try and burp because he's about halfway through the bottle. All that time, he only took 1 ounce. Something I did forget to mention, he may not want it anymore after this, so I'm just going to mention it. Well, you have the bottle in their mouth, and they're putting their suction on it, and they're drinking the milk. You want to do a slight tug of war. Pull on it just a little, not to break suction. You don't want to rip it out of their mouth. Just pull back a little so they're actually having to work and keep that nipple in their mouth. Just a slight tug, slight pull back. And that just keeps them working. You want them to work for their food. They don't get a free ride in life just because they're babies. If you have any questions, go on and put them in the comments. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. He's probably done. We're going to get him burped and get ready for his doctor's appointment.